Hi everyone, I'm Mike, the co-founder of Hummingbot. Hummingbot is an open source project that helps you build algo trading bots like market making, arbitrage, mean reversion, and really anything else you can think of. So one of the reasons why it's been used a lot by trading firms and both individuals is because it integrates to many different crypto exchanges, both centralized and decentralized. So ever since it started over 5 years ago, we've seen a growing number of people use it. So over the past year, about $34 billion of trade volume was executed using Hummingbot. And we partner with many exchanges like Binance, OKX, Gate, KuCoin, and so forth to offer our users fee rebates when they run Hummingbot on those exchange partners. So today I wanted to cover the new installation process for Hummingbot because we recently launched release 2.1, which is a major release and introduces a lot of the key components that we added recently. For example, dashboard, which helps you do backtesting and deploy multiple instances, as well as a backend API, which is kind of like more of like a API interface for Hummingbot instances. So starting with Hummingbot 2.0, which we introduced a couple months ago, now Hummingbot has a web app called Dashboard, which allows you to more easily interact with the core Hummingbot instances. Dashboard still runs the original Hummingbot core client, but allows you to spawn multiple versions of them and to manage those multiple instances more easily. In addition, you can also just run the core client by itself, just like you could in the old days. So today I'm going to go over how to install Hummingbot using Docker and Dashboard, and I'll also go over how to install the Hummingbot the traditional way by source and launching the command line client. So we'll be going through the same steps as what's in the installation section of the documentation, the install by Docker and install via source for macOS if you want to follow along later on. Before we get started, please take note of the system requirements. Hummingbot does not require a heavy machine because it's doing a lot of the processing internally and sending requests to crypto exchanges across the internet. However, you might need some type of, take note of the memory, storage, and other requirements here. Okay, so let's get started by going to the deploy, the repo. The deploy repo is the repo which has uses Docker Compose to launch bots very easily. So if you look at this compose file, these are the Docker containers and the images that it's going to pull and launch. So what this will do is pull the dashboard Docker image, and it'll launch it on port 8501. It will also launch the backend API, which is what Dashboard uses to basically create bots. And then finally, it also launches the EMQX broker, which is another repo that helps Dashboard talk to the various bots that it's launching. But you don't need to, if you're not a developer, you don't need to really go through this file. All you have to do is clone the repo and run this bash.setup.sh startup script. So let's do that. So first, go to github.com/hummingbot/deploy, and then in your terminal, let's pull up terminal. So here in terminal, we can let's go to the temp folder. I think I created one here, and this is just a dummy folder where we put the repos that we'll be pulling. So if you go to this URL, you can clone the repo. You can use either SSH or HTTPS. It's up to you. Personally, I use SSH because I've logged in with my SSH credentials already on my MacBook here. One thing to note is that if you are using Windows, I recommend using Windows subsystem for Linux 2, which allows you to run Docker. So before you do this, make sure you can run Docker from the command line and install Docker if you haven't already. So you should be able to run Docker and see this type of menu here. Okay, so let's get started by cloning the repo. So we'll clone the repo like this. Okay, and as we're waiting, let's now it's going to download the what's in the repo, and then we can go into it and start the deploy. All right, well, now that the deployment repo has been cloned, we can go into it and run the setup script. So let me go into deploy. Oh yeah, sorry, I'm already in the deploy directory. So as you can see, this deploy directory has the same contents as what's in GitHub over here. So we can also check out the same Docker Compose files. Note that there is a different version for running the development branch, and we have a special version for DYDX. But let's just go ahead and run bash setup.sh, which runs the normal compose YAML file here. So basically, what this setup script will do is going to run through this and install and set up these Docker containers. So here it's because I've already have the images. It's basically just starting them. If you didn't have them from before, or if you need to update them, it will fetch the updated images. So now it's running. It started backend API, which is the API that allows you to control and control different bots. And the main thing that we're going to use is the dashboard, which is more of like the front end. So to use dashboard, let's go to localhost 8501 in the web browser. So this is what it looks like. We can make the screen bigger, and currently if you do a refresh or if you click on one of these like instances, you'll see the menu kind of like pop up with this. Just a bit of a tour of how this works. So this is basically a web application that's running locally, and we found that this graphical interface is an easier entry point than using the traditional Hummingbot client. But you can also use the client itself, and each of the instances you deploy will essentially be a version of the traditional Hummingbot client. In the bot orchestration section, there's 4 pages, and each of these are Streamlit pages. It uses the current Streamlit framework. So you should probably start with the credentials tab and add credentials. Then after you've added credentials, which are basically the API keys that correspond to different exchanges, after you do that, you can go to the portfolio tab, see your portfolio. Then you can use the config generator to generate configurations that correspond to different strategy controllers, because this uses the Hummingbot v2 strategy framework. And then after you've used this, you can also do backtesting over here in each of the strategy configuration generator pages. After you've done that, then you can save a configuration, upload that to backend API, and then you can use the deployment tab to deploy one of these as a running Hummingbot instance. So every instance is also a Docker container, and then after it's running, then you can go to the instances tab to see how it's running. So this is a quick overview, but right now, let's go ahead and start with the credentials tab and add credentials to an exchange and view our portfolio. All right, so now let's add credentials to an exchange, which are the API keys that Hummingbot uses to be able to automate trading on your behalf. And so we'll be adding connectors to both a spot exchange, which connects to a spot order book exchange, as well as a perpetual connector, which connects to an exchange's perpetual futures markets. So in the credentials tab here, you can add credentials onto the master account, which is the default one, or if you want, you can create different accounts for different users or different profiles. But let's use a master account for simplicity's sake. And the exchange we'll use is OKX because I have that handy, and it's also one of our key exchange partners. So note that these requirements differ for different exchanges. So for OKX API keys, it requires 3 entries. One is the API key, the API secret, as well as a passphrase. So I have it here and securely saved in a secure note, but please keep your API keys secret. This is one reason why people use Hummingbot, because it's a local bot where it holds your keys in encrypted form and doesn't expose them to other third parties. Okay, so after you've added your API keys and other information for your designated exchange, if successful, you should see this message here. Afterwards, you can go to the Portfolio tab, and this will then show you the portfolio for the exchanges which are successfully connected. So this is my OKX portfolio. So you can see I can actually click on, if I have different exchanges here, I can click on OKX just to see the overall OKX balance as well as individual tokens here, or I can see the overall portfolio view like this. You can also filter for different exchanges and tokens if you want in this top section. In addition, we do try to track the portfolio evolution over time, so you can see how this portfolio might have evolved over the past few days. So now let's go ahead and add credentials for a different exchange. Let's add it for OKX Perpetual. This is actually the same account, but typically I've used 2 different API keys, and this allows us to kind of separate the 2 connectors and use a wallet which can trade on both accounts. So the first thing I'll do is I'll select OKX Perpetual over here. And then just like OKX Spot, it requires the API key, the secret, and the passphrase. Okay, so now we have successfully added keys for both Perpetual and Spot. If you refresh a page here, you'll see that it has both OKX and OKX Perpetual here. This is also available if you look at your directory over here. You can look at the directory contents, and if you go to the bots directory and then go to credentials, master account, and then we can see our connectors saved in the connectors folder in basically bots, credentials, master account, and then connectors. And so these files are encrypted, so with a passphrase which is used for dashboard. And then finally, we can also go to the Portfolio tab and see that our OKX Perpetual balance is here as well. So it was added. So we can click on the OKX Perpetual slice to see just the balance there. And we can click on OKX to see just the portfolio on OKX. All right, so that finishes this part of the presentation. Afterwards, in the next video, I'll come and show you how to deploy how to configure a strategy and deploy it. But for now, I also want to show how you can do the same process as I just did with installing the traditional Hummingbot client from source, which you might need if you're a developer who is trying to customize Hummingbot or if you're trying to really dig into the weeds and understand how the code base works. All right, well, now that we've seen how to install Hummingbot using Docker, which is a simple way that most users would typically interact with it, let's go ahead and install it from source. So from source, you can click on the install from source directions here to install on Linux, which you would typically do on a cloud server, or you can use Mac OS or the Windows instructions. Because I'm on a Mac, I'll show you how to do so on a Mac. So let's go and kind of go back to the temp directory that we created, where we have our deploy directory, and let's clone the Hummingbot directory, the main Hummingbot GitHub directory, and then that will allow us to run it from source, which will allow us to use maybe the latest version of Hummingbot, which is on development, or add our own connectors and use other custom features that might be available. So to do that, you can also clone the GitHub repo like this. I will clone it now. And as it's cloning, it's going to fetch and download the repo. I should mention that we are supported by our Exchange partners. So if you go to the main Hummingbot GitHub here, you'll see links for the top Exchange sponsors we have, which support us via volume-based fee share agreements. So if you click on links like this, you can sign up for an account with these exchanges, and you'll get 10 to 20% off fees when you trade on that exchange. And these kind of affiliate agreements also help support Hummingbot Foundation. In addition, we have a bunch of other exchange connectors in the code base. So a lot of these are maintained by the community, and they're voted in every epoch through governance. And so that's the main function of the HBot token. Okay, so now that the download is done, the interlude is over, and the sponsored interlude, and let's go ahead and use the repo and do the same thing that we just did with Docker, and get it set up, and then add credentials and using the CLI client. So because we install from source, the first thing what we're going to do is install the dependencies. And so if you run the install command, that will install what's in the environment tab here. I should note that there are some system requirements that I installed beforehand, and the most important one is either Anaconda or Miniconda, which is the environment manager that we use in Python. Because this was pretty fast for me because I've already set up the Hummingbot environment, and so I just need to activate the environment in order to use it. So to activate the environment, first go into, make sure you have Anaconda installed, and then type conda activate environment. Now, before you can run Hummingbot, because there are some elements of Hummingbot which are written in Python, you need to run the compile command to compile the Python modules into low-level C. This is actually partially why Hummingbot is quite fast, because it runs a lot of the higher kind of intensity operations in C rather than in Python. So let's run the compile command, and this will basically compile and Pythonize all the files that need it, while leaving the normal Python files the same. Okay, so now that it's done, we can run the start command in order to launch Hummingbot itself. And if this might take a while the first time around because it's compiling everything, but then after that you should see a welcome screen just like the one that you have here. So the first thing you'll do is set a password. This is what's used to encrypt your wallet files. By default, we use the one called A as a password, which I believe is also what's used in Dashboard as well. So enter it again in order to confirm it. This is the only time that it's saved, so make sure that you have it. So this is what the Hummingbot interface looks like. And so the first thing we'll do is let's do the same thing we did before with dashboard, and then connect and exchange. So this is a little more, obviously not as nice looking as dashboard, but you can basically do the same thing. You can type help to see the commands, and this is where you can connect an exchange API key. You can kind of create a script or a controller, and then you can run that as a bot. And so under the hood, when you run dashboard and you start an instance, it's actually loading an instance of this client and doing the exact same thing that we're doing now. So let's connect OKX and add the same information, and you'll be prompted to add the same information that you had before. So I'll add my API key and other information again. Okay, so now we're connected to OKX. So we can run balance, and it should fetch your total balance on OKX. Note that there was an error, and the error is because I'm using the default settings, which has Binance as the rate oracle. The rate oracle is what Hummingbot uses in order to translate prices from one currency to another, for example, to USD or USDT. So because Binance is not available where I live, I can change the rate oracle and use a different source. So I'm going to use KuCoin instead. And then I think now when I run balance, it should, so now it's using KuCoin to calculate the balances. So now it does have this column populated, and I don't see there anymore. So let's also run the connect command again and connect OKX perpetual, the same, just like we did before. So I'll add the passcode, or I'm sorry, the passphrase, the secret, and the API key, like this. Okay, and then now when I run balance, I should see, just like I did before, the balance for both OKX and OKX perpetual here. Okay, well, so I think that ends the video for the installation process. If you have more questions, please refer to the documentation for both installation via Docker and from source. Overall, we recommend that if you're really trying to dig deep into Hummingbot, you probably want to install from source. And if you're just kind of using it for the first time and you're not a developer, installing from Docker is probably the simplest way to do so. I hope this was helpful. In the second kind of video in this series, I'll get more into how to configure a strategy and run it using dashboard. All right, thank you very much.